And let me share my screen. Okay. So today's tutorial, we look into the Keynesian income for open economy. All right. Last week, we looked into closed economy. Closed economy means we look into two-sector economy in which there's only consumption and investments, no government spending and no trade. So we look into open economy, we look into three-sector economy and four-sector economy. Three-sector economy means that an economy with government spending, with government intervention. So therefore, there will be taxes, there will be transfer payments, all right? Whereas when you look into four-sector economy, we have government spending and international trade. So therefore, you have net exports. That means you start to have trade. So there's a difference between three-sector and four-sector. So when you look into three-sector and four-sector, we call this under open economy itself. Same thing, we are going to use the questions, okay, to go through today's contents because it's all just calculations. All right. So as I said, important, okay, last week chapter and this week chapters are combined and it's super duper important. Okay, so let's have a look into question 1 over here. Autonomous consumption is 60, investment is 100, government expenditure is 70, autonomous tax is 20, exports is 80. So you have all this information that's expressed in billion of dollars. That's the unit. The marginal propensity to consume is 0.6, income tax rate is 0.3, and the marginal propensity to import is 0.1. So what you should do then, before you do any calculations, my advice is you put everything into the answer sheets. So you transfer the data first into your paper. So in exam, open your answer booklet, write down all the information first. Okay, so this is question 1. Okay, put in all the information. So autonomous consumption is 60. I just put the figures in. Investment is 100. Okay, government spending is 70. So do step by step. Do like this first. Then what else? Taxes, is it? Taxes is 20. Exports is 80. Okay, taxes is 20. And then exports is 80. Okay, and then marginal propensity to consume is 0.6. And now we have the income tax rate, is it? Yeah, income tax rate and marginal propensity to import. Okay, so we have income tax rate 0.3. And then we have import rate. Which is 0.1. Okay, you have all this information here already. Okay, now first question A. They want you to calculate aggregate expenditure function, AE function, with the following assumptions, okay, which are two-sector, three-sector, and four-sector. Okay, so you can see two-sector means only consumption and investment, no government intervention. And then three-sector is with government spending, but no external sector yet, no trade. Okay, and four-sector is with government spending and external sector. Okay, let's do one by one. So this is how you write. Okay, first of all, question A. Question 1A. Question 1, they ask you to calculate aggregate expenditure. Okay, so first one, you need to calculate the true sector. True sector is what we learned in the previous lesson. Okay, so your aggregate expenditure equals to consumption plus investments. Yeah, so that's what we learned in last week. So what is the formula for consumption? A, autonomous consumption plus induced consumption, BY, okay, plus I, as simple as that. So you just put the values in. Autonomous expenditure here, B is marginal propensity to consume, okay, Y here, and then investment is 100, so you add it up, is 160 plus 0.6Y. So the two sector one, very, very easy to score. You will not make mistake. You don't have to do any extension of the formula itself. Okay, now let's have a look into three sector. Okay, so means what? So now my aggregate expenditure will have consumption, investment, and government spending. So therefore, same thing, consumption is A plus BY plus I plus G. But the question here is, it involves government spending. So when government is involved, that means the people in the country will have to pay taxes. Okay, and taxes will have autonomous tax and induced tax as well. And also you might receive transfer payments from government as well. So this Y over here, your disposable income will need to be extended. Like how? So it will become autonomous consumption plus B bracket your disposable income minus any autonomous tax minus any induced tax. Autonomous tax is a tax that you must pay regardless of your income. Induced tax is the tax, okay, that you pay dependent on the income. So like for example, let's say income tax, the more you earn, the more tax you have to pay. So that is dependent on your income. All right. Now all these, the formula itself, how is that formula like this? I made into the video that I asked you to watch last week. Remember, I say that before you look into the tutorials, I make extra video here, this one. Okay. If you wonder how all these formulas came out, how it is being derived, please spend your time to watch that video. 20 minutes like that. Not very long. But will they ask you how to derive? No, they won't ask you. But in case you're wondering, okay, then it can give you a very clear understanding of how the formula being derived. All right, so now disposable income minus taxation minus induced tax, okay, and then plus any transfer payments that you could have received from government, okay. So you can see that now your disposable income has been extended. That part is being extended like this, okay, and then continue the same plus investment plus government spending. So autonomous consumption, okay, is 60 plus B here is MPC 0.6 Y minus autonomous consumption, autonomous tax 20, okay, induced tax, okay, so induced tax, so income tax rate over here, this is the smaller t here, okay, so that means that this is the induced tax 0.3Y. So every $1 that you earn, you are paying 30 cents for taxes. That's what it means, 0.3Y over here. Okay, plus any transfer payments. Do they have any transfer payments over here? No. They did not talk about transfer payments, so 0. Same thing, that's how we do in exam. Plus investment is 100, plus government spending is 70. Okay, then we add it up one by one. So we can do one by one. Okay, so these are the answers. Make sure you don't make any mistake. So do you realize one thing over here? When at first, right, without government spending, so for every $1 or 1,000, okay, for every 1,000 income that you earn, 60% is being spent, right? But now when government spending is involved, there could be leakage because you are paying taxes. So now you can see here, it becomes a smaller value. So every $1,000 that's being earned as part of the income, only 42% being spent. Why? Because there is leakage. There's leakage. So therefore the value becomes smaller. Okay. So this is the money they are not being injected back to the economy. Why? Because they are using to pay taxes to the government spending. The taxes. Okay. At first, right, this leakage over here is only saving. Right? Remember we say that, okay, you earn 1,000, 60% being spent. So where's the rest of the 40%? Go for saving. Okay, go for saving. Okay, but here now in three sector economy, the leakage here is saving at the same time taxation. So you can see because of the leakage, it becomes a smaller value. Can understand? Very, very important. Okay, question C. Okay, now question C is fourth sector. That means with government spending and international trade. So your formula will be C plus I plus G plus NX. You have exports and imports. So how the formula is going to be? So consumption function will be A plus B bracket disposable income minus autonomous tax, okay, minus induced tax plus transfer payments. So that's for the consumption, okay, plus investment plus government spending, okay, and then now you have net exports. Let me move this a bit to the front. Give me a while. Okay, so net exports. So you need to use exports minus imports minus annual induced imports, like this. Okay, in case if you're wondering how this formula being derived, again watch back the video that I created. Okay, so this part over here, first of all, this part over here, when net exports being included, you will have this formula: exports minus the autonomous imports, okay, minus any induced imports. The button should be at the bottom. But at the bottom, you try at the bottom, middle bottom. You see if there's a button over there. If there's, yeah, right hand side a bit. Or at the back, either at the back or at the Meter there. On already. It's on already. Yes, want to switch on that one also. So now you substitute the value one by one. Okay. Okay, autonomous. Okay, and then 0.6. Autonomous tax 20. Induced tax is 0.3y plus no transfer payment. Okay. Investment is 170. Okay, plus exports 80. Imports here, no, there's no autonomous imports. Okay. No autonomous imports, and we have induced imports. You can see here, import tax rate over here. Okay, that's for us to calculate the induced imports. Y. Okay, so 0.1. Okay, so 0.1 y. Okay, so you do it, calculate it step by step. Don't make mistake. So do the maths properly. So you extend it first. It's just algebra anyway, easy one. The easiest chapters among all, actually. Okay. Okay. All right. So these will be the answers. $298 plus 0.32y. Okay, so same thing, you realize one thing over here. When trade is being involved, this number becomes even smaller. Leakage. Okay, you have saving, taxes, and imports. So that's the first question. Easy. So make sure you can get the values right. For this one, usually students will not make mistake because it's just algebra. Later, there's one. It's still also algebra, but students usually make some mistakes when it comes to multiplier. So we'll look at the multiplier in a while. But for now, all this is just an aggregate expenditure function. Okay, can we move on to the next question? Okay, question 2. To calculate equilibrium income under the following assumption, same thing, 2 sector, 3 sector, and 4 sector. Okay, equilibrium income. This one easy already. Okay, I'll show you this one very easy already. Okay, question 2. Okay, to calculate what? Equilibrium income. What's the formula for equilibrium income? What's the formula? You just learned last week or so. What is the formula of y? Y equals to AE. Yes, correct. So smart. All right. So sarcastic. Okay. Question A. Okay, we do y equals AE. Okay, y equals to how much? 160 plus 0.6y. So you move around and you get the answers. So what will be the answers? So here is 400. Okay. If you want to put the units like $400 billions also can, up to you. But you just want to leave your answer like this, I'm fine as well. As long as you get the values right, I will give you full marks in that exam. Okay. So I'm not so concerned with the units. Okay, same thing, do question B. Y equals to 218 plus 218 plus 0.42y. Okay, and then move around. Y here equals to 375.86. Okay, do the same for question C. Y equals to 298 plus 0.32y. Okay, then move around. Okay, and you get the answers. So do you realize one thing? if you make mistake in your first question, right, the whole thing gone already, right? Because question 2 is continue from question 1. Okay. Very excited, you all do algebra, they do so excited. Okay. Question 3, Okay, question 3 is the one students always make mistake one. Multiplier. Okay. So now, question 3, they ask you to calculate autonomous expenditure multiplier under the following assumptions. Okay, same thing for 2 sector, 3 sector, and 4 sector. Okay. Okay, so same thing. How's the multiplier formulas? Now, I also provided you here already. You see on the right, 2 sector, 3 sector, and 4 sector. But students always make mistake because of the denominator here. Okay, I will explain to you in a while. But if you're wondering how the multiplier looks like this, again, please watch the video lor, because I explained to you how every single formula being derived ma. Okay, so spend some time to watch that lah. Don't want never mind. Then as long as you make sure you don't make mistake, can no? Okay, you don't make mistake, that's fine. Because I say already, it's not being assessed for that one. They won't ask you how the formula being derived, so that's fine. Okay, so now question A, true sector economy. So how's the formula looks like? Alpha equals to 1 divided by 1 minus B. So smart. Okay. Okay, B here is 0.6, right? Marginal propensity to consume. Okay. So this one students always score 1. They will not make mistake. Later, the 3 sector and 4 sector, they will make mistake already. Okay, so this one you calculate. How much is the multiplier here? Is 2.5. Okay, that means that an injection comes into the economy, right? It will generate a multiplier effect of 2.5. So from initial 1 million, it becomes 2.5 million like that. So multiply effect in between. Okay. Okay, question B for 3 sector, how the formula looks like? 1 divided by 1 minus B bracket 1 minus T. Students will start to make mistake already. Okay, so 1 minus B here. B is 0.6 bracket 1 minus T. T here, induced text, the smaller letter T. Okay, 0.3. Okay, 0.3. Okay, you know why students make mistake? They go and do like this. They go and minus this one first and then minus this one and times together. Can someone tell me why is that wrong? No. Algebra rules, multiplication first, followed by add or subtract. So that means by right is what? This is wrong, so this is wrong, don't do this, wow, later the whole thing will be gone already. Okay, so you need to do what? So if you let's say if you don't want to use calculator, you want to pretend to be very smart, okay, you want to do manually, it's like this first. You this one times this one, this one times this one. Algebra rules. Okay, so you calculate though. Actually, if you press everything correctly to calculator, you will never get mistakes one. It's just that sometimes you just want to be very smart, then you go and calculate manually yourself, then you will get things wrong. Okay, 1.72. Okay, question C, multiplier. How's the multiplier formula? Hey, and exam no formula provided to you one. This is not finance. 1 minus B bracket 1 minus T plus M. Okay, plus M. What M here is this? M is this one, the import tax rate, the small letter word M. Okay, just now this one is T and this one is M. Okay, so we can calculate though. This one always student make mistake one. So same thing. Actually, if you key in correctly, then you will not get the mistake. And another reason why students make mistakes because they forgot the formula. They forgot the formula, so they make mistake. Okay, you try and calculate, you will get 1.47. So do you realize one thing over here? When it moved from 2 sector to 3 sector and 4 sector, right? The multiplier impacts will become smaller and smaller and smaller. The multiplier impacts. Like for example, when 1 million being injected, at first in 2 sector, it generates 2.5 million. In 3 sector, it generates 1.72 million. And when it comes to 4 sector, it only generates 1.447 million. Why? Because of the leakage. Because some money are being spent on saving, taxes, and imports. So therefore, the more leakage that we have, the multiplier impacts will become smaller. Okay, Ken, so these are the calculation question that you must know. As long as you don't make mistake, then you can score. Okay, now let's move on to the here. Okay, question 4, as what I comment just now. What is the difference? What can you observe? So we can see that the more leakage that we have in the Keynesian model, the lower the impact on the GDP. Okay, because as you can see from the multiplier itself, it becomes smaller and smaller. So the impacts of the multiplier effects will become smaller when there are more leakage, okay, in the economy. Okay, now move on to question 2. This one I just want to go through quickly here. Private investment is likely to contribute significantly to economic growth. So here they talk about private investment, means investment, injection, okay? And is targeted to grow 12.8% or 1.115 billion a year. Growth will be supported by robust consumption and strong external demand. What is external demand? Exports. Okay, so you have investment here, consumption here, and exports here. The Malaysian economy is expected to register strong growth of 7% in 2010 and expand between 5 and 6% in 2011. This compared to 1.7% contraction in 2009. To improve learning institutions, 4.6 billion will be set aside to build and upgrade schools. So now the quick question here is identify the key expenditure components of growth for the Malaysian economy using aggregate expenditure analysis. So what are the expenditure components over here? We have consumption, we have investment, and we have exports. Of course, here you can see there is government spending as well, because you can see that to improve the learning institutions, there were this amount of money being pumped in as well. Those are injections as well. So if you want to argue that there is government spending, that is also right. So therefore, all this is what we call as injections to the economy. Okay, so I put the explanation here as well. Okay, so you can identify these 3 components from this scenario itself. How are you doing? Hey, you did quite good for midterm, huh? So you can score from today's one 40 marks. Yes, that last week you absent algebra. Yes, but there was a last sem recording over there, so you can watch for last week one, and this week one is open economy. So 4-0. You confident, right? Not, but you score well for finance also. What last time? Same lah. Uh-huh. You can. That's why if let's say if this comes out in exam, you want to put that component in, that's fine. But here they only give you 3 components. You can just explain that. Yeah. Okay, question 3. Some graph here. Okay, I modify your contents already. So this is the updated version. Because if you downloaded the earlier versions, you can see a very lengthy explanations. Yes, by right, that one was the right one actually. But the thing is, because we want to simplify it to make it easier. Okay, so therefore now, if it comes out, you only need to you only require to draw things like this that you can see here. Not as complicated as the earlier one. If you downloaded the earlier one, you can see a very lengthy explanations over there, right? Change already. Okay, change to this one. So that means these are things you need to know. Simplify already. Okay, because you want to store your energy for later on. More challenging one at the back. Okay, so use an aggregate expenditure and corresponding ADS diagram to describe the effects of expansionary fiscal policy when the economy is in recession. So you can see the starting point is recession. That means the country has a recessionary gap. Okay, so that's a recessionary gap. Okay, expansionary fiscal policy is to increase aggregate demand with the use of government spending and lower taxation. Okay, so therefore, what happened here is when aggregate demand increase, what happened to the aggregate expenditure? It will increase as well. Okay, so this increase will increase this ones as well. So how is it going to shown on aggregate expenditure and ADS model? Okay, here they ask you to combine these two, but in a simplified model only. Okay, you don't have to use the earlier one. Okay, so you can have a look. It will be like this. Okay, so first of all, at first, right, you are at point A here, blue color dots. Okay, and this is your initial aggregate expenditure, the blue lines. Now, in case you're wondering how the aggregate expenditure like this, you need to watch back last week recording already, okay? On the y-axis is aggregate expenditure, on the x-axis is real GDP, and we assume that here there's a 45 degrees, okay? There's a 45 degrees here in which we say y equals to AE. Okay, this is y equals to AE. Okay, so at first you're operating at point A. So at first, this is your aggregate expenditure here, blue colors one. Okay, and at this output here, y0. Okay, and what is this A here? A is the autonomous expenditure. Now, what happened here is, okay, now expansionary fiscal policy, injection comes in from government, shift the aggregate expenditure upwards. Okay, to here, green colors one. Okay, so you can see these now, my injection will have government spending involved. The initial autonomous plus the government spending here already. Okay, so it shift upwards. So remember, as long as it is about the injection. Okay, when there's injections, that means what? That means autonomous expenditure increases. It will shift the AE upwards, the whole thing upwards. So means what? Injections means investment government spending and exports. Okay. So as long as all these consumption also under this part, consumption, investment, government spending, and exports. Okay, as long as we have these components increase, it will shift the entire AE curve upwards. So when they shift upwards over here, it becomes to this here, red color point AE. Okay, or A1 here. Okay, so you can see here from point A, it moved up to A1. Okay, now what happened is that it's a shortage. Yeah, because now you are operating at this red color point, but the potential output here, this blue color 45-degree line here, it also means your potential. It means the potential. Okay, so therefore what happened is now A1 over here is producing way beyond. Okay, way beyond the output. Okay, so what happened is there's a shortage. Okay, so what happened is it will move from point A1 to point B over here. And assuming point B over here is the full potential GDP of the economy. So you can see there's a red color lines over here. Okay, so therefore from point A1 to point B over here, the explanations we usually use is the multiply effect. To explain the movement, okay, from point A1 to point B here. Okay, because one thing you can see over here is that just now from point A, move to point A1, right? You will realize one thing, your aggregate expenditure, sorry, just now I shouldn't use the word potential output. I should use the word AE larger than output. Sorry, my bad. Okay, at A1 over here, you can see that my aggregate expenditure, okay, is way larger than the output. My aggregate expenditure is here, and my output is here. So you see the values become larger already. It's no longer equal to each other. So therefore, AE, the expenditure is way larger than the output, and therefore there is a shortage. That's why just now I say shortage. I shouldn't use the word potential output because later on I will use potential output. So therefore here there's a shortage, AE larger than Y, expenditure larger than output at point A1, and therefore we use multiply effects to explain the movement to point B, in which point B here is the potential output. So that means the economy goes back to the full employment after the injection by the government over here when the country is having the recessionary gap. Okay, so therefore this can be represented by the rightward shift of aggregate demand curve here from point A to point B. Okay, back to the full employment. So at first it's at this price level, at this output, and then after that it moves up to P1 here, and here is full employment. Okay, so you see AE shift upwards over here, and it can be represented by a rightward shift of aggregate demand. So this is a simplified version here. Okay, so therefore change in injections or any change in autonomous expenditure. So we put all these as change in autonomous. We use the big capital letter A. Okay, again, if you forgot why, again, you need to watch back the recordings and also the extra video that I created. So all this, as long as about the change in the autonomous injections, is shift AE, the whole AE. Okay, so you see, if I look into my answer just now, okay, you see here, you can see here the aggregate expenditure, right? Okay, if I put another color, let's say I put yellow. Okay, so you see from 160 here, autonomous, in 2-sector economy, it becomes 218 in 3-sector, and it becomes 298 in the 4th sector, right? You can see the autonomous here, it is increasing. So means what? It can be represented by the upward shift of aggregate expenditure. But now my question for you here is this. What if you look into the induced part, over here, from 0.6y, it becomes to 0.42y, and then followed by 0.32y. So you can see here, because of the leakage, right, the induced expenditure over here becomes smaller. How is that going to be represented on the graph itself? This is not autonomous, this is induced. So how the graph looks like? Okay, now let's have a look here. Okay, I erase this one. Okay, so just now we say that, okay, we draw a graph first. Okay, so we have origin, we have AE, we have output. Just now we have a 45 degrees line, y equals to AE, and this is our aggregate expenditure function. AE, let's say, equals to 200 plus 0.6y, for example. Okay, let me write smaller here a bit. Okay, at point A, at this output. Now, when I say that the injection increase, it will shift the whole AE upwards to AE1 equals to, let's say, 250 plus 0.6y. Okay, so now at the end, it becomes here point B. So you can see the output is becoming higher. Okay, so you can see here, this is caused by the change in the autonomous, the injections. Okay, change in the autonomous that result in AE increasing. Okay, so you can see initially your autonomous is only here, but now maybe with government spending, for example, it increases. It increases your autonomous plus, let's say, government spending, like what we see just now. Okay, now what if today we talk about change in the induced parts, the induced expenditure parts? The induced parts, like for example, just now it becomes smaller, right? Let's say okay, so let's say we say at 0.6y, it becomes 0.4y, for example. So how is that going to be represented on the graph? So same thing, we draw y-axis here, x-axis here, origin, AE, output, so 45 degrees, y equals to AE, and then we have the initial, let's say this is the initial aggregate expenditure. So let's say AE, I just simply put a value, okay, 200 plus 0.6y, okay, at first. So at point A over here, at this output. So now what happened is these things over here, it becomes smaller to 0.4, for example. What happened is it will shift the graph downwards, pivoting to the same autonomous consumption here. So it will become like this. So the whole thing, not to say the whole thing shift, because these part remain the same. Your autonomous remain the same. Your autonomous remain the same. It's just that the graph shift downwards, pivoting to the same point of autonomous. So therefore, this is your new expenditure function equals to 200 plus 0.4y over here. Okay. So now this point over here becomes your point B, okay, at lower outputs here. Okay, so this is why you can see when these things Okay, when this induced part becomes smaller means what? There is leakage. Therefore, there is money not being spent into the economy. So therefore, it flows out. There is a leakage out from the economy itself. Okay, so therefore, change in induced, okay, it shift the graph downwards, pivoting to the points here. Okay, so these are things that you need to know. I prepared one more additional question here for you to try. For this one, I just assume that you just need to do 4 sector, okay? But as I say, I already checked with your module leader that for today's topic, right, when it comes out in the exam, you will have 2 sector, 3 sector, and 4 sector. So that means that in the same question, you are required to calculate all the calculations for different sectors. But for this one, it's just a practice for you to try it out. Assume that you just need to do 4 sector economy. You can try it out. I have provided the answers over here, but I'm saying that in exam, it will be more towards like this, in which you have these 3 different sectors that you need to calculate. It's just that for this one, I assume that it's only 4 sector that you need to calculate over here. So since only 4 sector, I believe it's not too time consuming. You can try out now if you want to. Okay, so these are the things that I want to cover for today's lesson.